WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Bloomington, home to the Indiana Hoosiers, and over 200,000 acres of fall foliage in the Hoosier National Forest. Enjoy in-seasonal flavors at local restaurants, experience views atop 4 fire towers, or catch a Big Ten football game at Memorial Stadium. Plan your fall getaway at visitbloomington.com.
We're going to take a trip right now. Like we always do about this time.
This is a journey into sound. Break it down.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. On this week's show, I'll speak with Durand Jones, Aaron Frazer, and Blake Rhein of Durand Jones and The Indications. The band has a new album out titled Flowers, and they'll be performing in Indianapolis at the Hi-Fi Annex on September 30th. Durand Jones and The Indications formed in Bloomington, Indiana in 2012, while its members were studying at Indiana University. The band's sound was built from a mutual love for classic soul, funk, and R&B, and their reputation spread beyond Bloomington when Ohio's Colemine Records issued their debut album in 2016.
How long, baby, how long will this madness be here to stay? How can we make a living on such a tiny pay?
The Indications' second album, American Love Call, was issued in 2019 and praised by critics for its lush arrangements and socially conscious lyrics, earning comparisons to the Impressions and Delfonics.
It's still in San Diego. You can hear a baby cry as the trains in New York City roll thunder down the line.
2 years later, their album Private Space debuted in the top 10 of Billboard's Emerging Artists chart. The Indications have grown into an international force, racking up millions of streams online and touring across North America and Europe. Aaron, Blake, and Durand will join me in a moment to discuss their roots in Bloomington, Indiana. But first, let's hear a track off their new album, Flowers. This is Durand Jones and The Indications with If Not for Love. That was Durand Jones and The Indications with If Not for Love, off their new album, Flowers. I recently spoke with the band's vocalist, Durand Jones, guitarist Blake Rhein, and vocalist and drummer Aaron Frazer. Let's join our conversation.
Yeah, what's up? This is Aaron Frazer. I'm the drummer and falsetto singer in the band.
Hey, this is Blake. I play guitar in the band.
And it's me, Durand Jones, and I sing.
Aaron, Blake, Durand, thank you so much for taking time to do this today. I'm a huge fan. We're going to talk about your new album, Flowers, and your roots here as a band in Indiana. First, I wanted to ask about a string of shows you just did. I believe you recently opened for Lenny Kravitz in Europe. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really fun to watch somebody kind of who's been at the top of his game. He doesn't sound any different than he did in like the 90s. It's honestly incredible. The first time we heard him sound checking, I was sure they were just like doing some playback, just playing a recording of the song to test the room. But no, I mean, that's really how he sounds.
Was he an influence on any of you in the band? Any of you want to comment on the legacy of Lenny Kravitz? Durand?
Absolutely. And it's really cool to see him live play so many songs that were just like moments in your childhood, you know, that like can take you back to a setting or a place in time. And it was absolutely cool to see someone absolutely live within the ethos of their art. The way he walked was always a swaggy move. The way he always dressed super, super nice. I was dressed in sweatpants on the tour when I wasn't on stage. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't doing it up like Lenny. He lives it and breathes it. And it was really cool to see. And yeah, definitely was influenced by his stuff. Yeah.
Durand is underselling his outfits on tour because we did a lot of flying on this tour, a lot of traveling through the airports. And, you know, these days people don't show up to the airports look in anything other than their pajamas. But Durand showed up every single flight swagged out. So, yeah, shouts to Durand.
As I mentioned, I want to talk about your roots here in Indiana. And from what I know about the band's history, there were two significant projects that kind of led to the formation of Durand Jones and the Indications. One of those was the band Charlie Patton's War, and one of those was the IU Soul Revue, which is part of the curriculum at Indiana University. In 1971, the school founded the IU Soul Revue, led by Portia Maltzby. It continues to this day, preparing students for a career in soul music, teaching about the history of soul music. Tell me about this program and how it fits into the history of your band. Durand, do you want to start? I know you came up here from Louisiana to study music at Indiana University, and you were part of the horn section at the IU Soul Revue.
Yes, I was. IU Soul Revue honestly gave me a chance to leave Louisiana and to continue my music studies. And through the IU Soul Revue, I got to meet Blake Rhein, who was one of the student sound engineers. And I think a really big part of how I got to know these guys and really got to play music with Blake and Aaron was during IU Soul Revue. Blake handed me a Charles Bradley CD to go and listen to, and I felt really compelled by it. I really loved it. No Time for Dreaming was the record. And you know, I really think of the legacy of the Neil Marshall and the African American Arts Institute, and I really do feel like we are part of that legacy. And there's nothing more than I would love than to see it continue and move forward, because it is a life-changing opportunity for many folks. And you know, the alumni, the list of all of the amazing soul musicians who have been involved with the IU Soul Revue is exponentially large. So yeah, I think it's really awesome that the Indications are a part of that legacy too.
Blake, do you want to comment on your association with the IU Soul Revue and the importance of this group in Indiana and beyond?
Yeah, the IU Soul Revue is like one of the only forming ensembles at IU that wasn't attached to the music school, and there was all these cool bands. You know, Bloomington had a pretty outsized music scene with all these cool indie bands, but most of those including Charlie Patton's war, were kind of like members of the music school. And I just don't think, the IU Soul Revue is just very removed from the music school in a lot of ways. And it was really inspiring to kind of like go outside of the music school and meet all those musicians and just meet a whole different group of people who weren't kind of, as infused into the indie scene too. And I think that was just like a really interesting part in my life to kind of step outside of my comfort zone and meet a whole bunch group of new people, which I think is a big part of college in general.
I believe Tyrone Cooper was the leader of the Soul Revue when you were both there. This man is a genius, not only as an academic, but as a musician and vocalist. Do either of you want to comment on at all on the role Tyrone Cooper has played in your lives and academic career? Durand, you're smiling. Do you want to say anything about Tyrone?
Yeah, and the very first thing I say is Tyrone don't play no games in rehearsal. He is about it. He is serious with what he does, his craft, his art. And working with him was a huge learning lesson about soul music. And it's something that I still hold very close to this day. One thing that he really wanted to instill inside of us when we were under his tutelage was that there's, these three main components of soul, which is the love song, the social consciousness, and the party. And you will find those tropes within every single Indications record, but not only ours. You will find it, in a Marvin Gaye, in a Donny Hathaway, Aretha Franklin, a Gladys Knight and the Pips, a Durando record or a Jill Scott Heron record. You will find all of those things. And so like we really learned a lot from him, and we still try to embody those things to this day. So I'm very thankful for the times with Tyrone.
Let's take a break from my conversation with Durand Jones and the Indications and listen to another track off their new album, Flowers. This is Been So Long. We just heard Durand Jones and the Indications with Been So Long off their new album, Flowers. Let's return to my conversation with the band as we continue to discuss their roots in Bloomington, Indiana. I asked Blake Rhein and Aaron Frazer about their work with the Bloomington band Charlie Patton's War. The second band I mentioned was Charlie Patton's War. Aaron and Blake, you both performed with this group, as did, I think, some of the other original members of the Indications. This was an incredible blues rock band that was around in Bloomington for a few years. Shout out to my friend Nicole O'Neill, who first told me about your work. Tell me about this band, Charlie Patton's War, and how it connects to the history of Durand Jones and the Indications.
Definitely shouts to Nicole O'Neill. Indiana institution, and our first manager that we ever had. Charlie Patton's War, I guess, Blake and I, even though we came from such different places in the country, we had so much shared musical interests that spanned from like when I was in high school, I heard the Budos band, and Blake heard, Sharon Jones, and, so we loved the Daptone stuff. We bonded really early on over like Dilla, and not only Dilla, but like the samples, behind the Donuts record. There's like a mixtape called Recipe for Tasty Donuts that like has all the samples and stuff. And but then also the sort of like, that rock and roll kind of end of like the blues that the White Stripes, the Black Keys, and I think for Blake, like Dex Ron Weber, Flat Duo Jets were really big. And so yeah, we became fast friends and started making music together in that kind of like in that style, in that blues rock style. And actually it was Kyle and Blake that were making that music first. Kyle helped another Indiana institution, and they were nice enough to let me join on drums. So yeah, eventually we started writing original tunes, and that was so much fun. And that's where I think we learned, that's where the foundation of the energy of our live show that now you see with the indications, like, comes from playing in the basement with blown out PAs, and also playing shoulder to shoulder with like some really amazing Bloomington bands, the Calumet Reel and the Broderick, people like that, Good Luck, who would just put on these stunning live performances that we'd have to learn how to keep up with, but yeah, eventually Blake and I had talked about wanting to make stuff that was inspired by some of the soul music we were listening to. And it was right around that time that Blake met Durand in Soul Revue. So it was just this very, very organic development, and it continues to be organic. And honestly, I think it ties back into this new record that's coming out, Flowers. Like the entire concept is situated around this idea of like organic blossoming and growth and development.
Blake, before we move on, did you want to add anything about Charlie Patton's War?
Yeah, I think it was really good to have that foundation, like moving into the indications, like to tie it back to Soul Revue, like an important aspect of both the indications, Charlie Patton's War, and the Soul Revue was this like one band, one sound, which was something we kind of instinctually were doing with Charlie Patton's War, of like everyone kind of like sits in their place and it's all about serving the sound of the whole band. And that was something we would hear Cooper say too. It's just like, play your part, it's, you gotta, everyone highlight each other. And by the time we were starting to make tunes as the indications, it was like, just, we didn't have to think about it. It was like, okay, like everyone kind of do their thing, and it serves, sit back. And when all the musicians are sitting back and looking at the broad picture of the song and not just their part, it really becomes something special.
Before we move on from Bloomington, I wanted to ask if there were any other projects you all were involved with there that you feel like are meaningful, that you would want people to know about. Durand, I mentioned you were part of the Jefferson Street Parade Band, which is where I met you. It was sort of this guerrilla-style marching band that would take to the streets. What was that like, playing with Ben Fowler and the Jefferson Street Parade Band?
It was absolutely fun. Ben Fowler has such a eclectic view on music, specifically a lot of West African and South American stuff. And so playing in these meters and in these scales that, I wasn't used to playing on saxophone with, was a real big learning lesson for me. That was the very first time I ever toured with the group. And so that was enlightening to know what it was like to be on the road, and in some ways kind of prepared me for what was to come with the indications. Just thinking back, because it's been so long ago, off the top of my head, I really have to give a shout out to the Canary Quartet. That was the first group that I worked with out in Indiana, and that was the main reason why I was there, was for classical music and their classical saxophone quartet, and they are still going to this day, playing all around the world. So check them out, folks.
Blake or Aaron, any projects you were involved with during your time in Bloomington that you want people to know about? Aaron, you were nodding your head.
I played in a lot of bands around Bloomington. I'm also laughing because last weekend I was in a books and record shop here in Los Angeles and came across a Triptides cassette tape that I remembered from Bloomington. It had this, like, the cover was this kind of like yellow, blue, kind of green gradient with like a ship, I think, maybe a surfboard. Anyway, I found it. I just couldn't believe that it made its way all the way from Bloomington. Although Glenn Brigman, I think it actually still lives out here. So shouts to Glenn. I played in like a folk. I used to busk a lot on the square downtown, and with my roommates, and we called ourselves Mr. Johnson's Family Reunion. And we did some like basement stuff, around Bloomington as well. And probably the most obscure project I was a part of, the first time I actually played with horns live was a band I put together because I had a crush on one of the RAs when I was a sophomore. And she asked if I had a band that had horns, and I lied and said yes and built the band just for this one event that she wanted me to do. And that band was called the Wardens for some reason. So RIP, we came and went, but yeah.
Thank you. Blake, how about you?
Yeah, the Brazilian percussion ensemble at IU was really fun, and I think just, learning how to play percussion was a really fun thing. And then Kyle and I had a band, like, when because I think Aaron would go home during the summers, and there was a couple of summers where Kyle and I stayed, and we kind of did like a duo version of Charlie Patton's War we called the Brontosaurus Rex, which was just like a drunker, sloppier version of the band, and like really goofy and fun.
Let's take a break from my conversation with Durand Jones and the Indications and listen to a pair of tracks the band recorded live in Bloomington. From the 2018 album Live, this is Durand Jones and the Indications with I Can't Do Without You and Make a Change.
I want her. I need her. I love her. Got to have so much. Whoa, my dear, yeah. So much.
Cultural Manifesto will return with more words and music from Durand Jones and the Indications after this short break.
WFYI podcasts are brought to you by Bloomington, home to the Indiana Hoosiers and over 200,000 acres of fall foliage in the Hoosier National Forest. Enjoy in-seasonal flavors at local restaurants, experience views atop 4 fire towers, or catch a Big Ten football game at Memorial Stadium. Plan your fall getaway at visitbloomington.com.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. My guests this week are Durand Jones, Aaron Frazer, and Blake Rhein of Durand Jones and the Indications. The band has a new album out titled Flowers, and they'll be performing in Indianapolis at the Hi-Fi Annex on September 30. Before we return to my conversation with the band, let's hear another song from Flowers. This is Really Wanna Be With You.
That's just how I feel about you, baby. Think about you now. I got to find a way to make you stay, 'cause I really wanna be with you. Really wanna be with you. I got to move fast, got
That was Durand Jones and the Indications with Really Wanna Be With You off their new album, Flowers. Let's return to our conversation. Did you all have any expectation when you were in the basement starting this project back in, I think, 2012? Did you have any sense that this is something that would have such longevity and widespread appeal? Was there any sense that there was some kind of magic in what you were doing together that would outlive your time in Bloomington?
I would say absolutely yes for me. I remember getting a burned CD of the very first tune that I think we completed or just like finished, and it was Given Up. And just playing that in my car, I had to pull over to the side of the road. I was really like, wow, like of all the music projects I've done, which I feel like I did a handful by then. I was like, this feels very special. There's something here. I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's a little spark. And feeling that way in thinking back then, I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing right now, to the scale of it, which, absolutely exceeded my expectations. But it also feels really good to know that that spark that I felt back then of why this thing feels so special, I feel it today still, and even more in some ways. So yeah, I feel like I knew in some ways.
Aaron?
Yeah, sure. I think I thought that what we were doing would kind of, find its way out of Bloomington, but I didn't think that it would be as an active band. This started as a recording project, and so much of what we talked about early on in the band's history was just like kind of celebrating obscurity. And so we just figured, like, you make a good batch of songs and put it out there, and like, it doesn't matter if it's tomorrow or 10 years or 20 years from now, like, people will find it. And actually it'll be even cooler if no one knew about it. And so that's why, like, on our first show poster, it says one night only, because we were like, how cool would it be to just play one show and never play again and just have this weird, obscure musical dispatch from Bloomington.
Before we leave the subject of Indiana, I do a lot of programs here on the history of music in Indiana. You all are music fanatics and music historians. I'm curious how, if at all, the legacy of Indiana soul and funk music has influenced you. Obviously, Indiana has produced some legendary artists from Michael Jackson to Babyface, Timmy Thomas, Sonny Charles, Denise Williams. You could go on and on. I know on your Spotify playlist, Inspirations, you have some Indiana acts, Amnesty, Turner Brothers. Blake, you just did research on the Numero album Skyway Soul, I believe, a compilation of music from Gary. Do any of you, just raise your hand, want to comment on the influence, if at all, of the legacy of soul and funk music here in Indiana? Blake?
Yeah, I mean, there is just always like something inspiring about regional history and proximity. In a lot of ways, actually, that was, even though it's not Indiana, like Colemine was really inspiring. It felt like this thing that was happening contemporary to us that was so close, whereas like Daptone felt so far away. And that was like the impetus for a lot of this recording. It was like, oh, this guy is like, he's based in Cincinnati. It's like an hour and a half drive away. It felt very accessible, and I think that was like a huge aspect. And like knowing that kind of music was being created like so close by, in the same moment, was really inspiring for like starting the band.
You all have a new album coming out this month titled Flowers. I've only heard a few tracks off the record. It's amazing. Anything you want to share about this album with our listeners? Durand, how about you?
First, I would say to the listener that I really hope that they enjoy it. This record was a true collaborative process in every sense. And I really hope that they can hear the growth. And I really hope they understand, the meaning behind what this record is. This is the first record that we have put out in 4 years. And so, in a lot of ways, this was us giving flowers to one another, but also giving flowers to our fans. Really leaning into the things that we have seen our fans really love and dig about us. And we really try to embrace all of our strong suits with this record. I like to think of it like a little box of chocolates too, because you never know what you're going to get on that first listen. Are you going to get an Aaron song? Are you going to get a Durand song? Are you going to get a Durand and Aaron song? Are you going to get a group vocal song? And so it's really full of surprises in that way. And so I'm very excited for the folks to listen to it.
Blake, Aaron, any thoughts you want to share? Blake?
Yeah, it has been interesting to hear some feedback from people who've heard the record, and their observation is growth, and they've noticed this growth when I think a lot of our intention behind this record was to reflect on what we've done over the past, nearly a decade as a band, and just like Durand said, like give flowers to our fans and make something that felt like an Indications record. We didn't feel pressure this time around to like really push forward, into like this new. We were like, let's just pull from our wheelhouse and make a record that we really love, and use this vocabulary of soul music that we've like learned and in some ways mastered. And but like I said, it's just been really interesting to hear that there has been this sense of like growth that people are hearing. So that's just been a really exciting aspect of the record rollout so far.
You'll all be playing here in Indianapolis on September 30th at the Hi-Fi. Any final thoughts before we go? Durand, final thought?
I'm just very thankful for Indiana for holding us down all these years. Like I think Bloomington particularly will always be a very, very special place for all of us. And it's just really cool to be a part of that legacy. So thank you, Indiana, for holding us down, baby. We love you.
Aaron, Blake, Durand, thank you again for taking time to do this, and we'll see you in Indianapolis on September 30th. Looking forward to it.
See you there. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
We've been listening to my conversation with Durand Jones, Aaron Frazer, and Blake Rhein of Durand Jones and The Indications. Let's listen to another track off their new album, Flowers. This is I Need the Answer.
Why do the burdens of the world sit on my chest? Why do we take until there's nothing left? What will we leave for futures to see who we are? In the stars. Someone tell me, yeah. I need the answer. I need the answer.
That was Durand Jones and The Indications with I Need the Answer off their new album, Flowers. They'll be performing in Indianapolis at the Hi-Fi Annex on September 30th. And that's all the time we have for this week. If you appreciate all the arts and culture programming you hear on this station, please consider making a donation now at WFYI.org. And check out the Cultural Manifesto podcast at WFYI.org or wherever you listen to podcasts. Cultural Manifesto is hosted and produced by me, Kyle Long. Thank you for listening.
I wanna take you home.